Hi everyone, thanks for watching. In today's video, I want to talk about why Trump seems to be blameless in the eyes of nearly all of his supporters. Words and actions that would have, in the past, caused outrage or condemnation had they been said or done by any other politician, are instead ignored or simply dismissed as either being untrue or unimportant. But why is that? Why are the vast majority of Trump's supporters so hesitant to criticize him even in the slightest? In fact, not only do they refrain from criticizing him, but many now view him as a martyr, an innocent victim of all those who are out to destroy him. As it turns out, there are several specific reasons why nothing negative seems to stick to Trump. And so, without further delay, here are the 5 primary reasons that Trump always escapes unscathed from any controversy as far as his supporters go, and why this actually empowers him more and more. Number 1. Trump is made of mud. One of the more common things to happen in any political campaign is for the candidates to sling mud at one another. They will lob accusations of impropriety, infidelity, or corruption at their opponent and hope that such insults make an impression on the voters. The dirtier they can make their opponent, the more likely they are to win, in their opinion. When Trump announced his candidacy back in 2015, he had the advantage, if you can call it that, of being a man who had already committed just about every sin out there short of murder. His reputation was that of an egotistical, philandering loudmouth with ties to organized crime and a penchant for dishonesty. He cheated contractors out of their money, he cheated on his wives, and he lied so often about his businesses that his own bankruptcy attorneys would only meet with him in pairs in order to prevent him from changing his story had they met with him individually. When a politician starts out already having this kind of reputation, there's not a lot of mudslinging that will stick. Any new accusation simply didn't have a noticeable impact on Trump because there was no moral high ground for Trump to be knocked off of. He can't be knocked off of a pedestal that he was never on. Trump's history before even entering politics actually made him impervious to any of the normal attacks that politicians levy against one another. And, if anything, the multitude of these character defects only reinforced the idea that he was an outsider looking to shake up the political establishment. Number 2. Trump's perfect cover. Before announcing his presidential bid back in 2015, Trump's political beliefs during his adult life were more closely aligned with the Democrats than the Republicans. And personally, I believe that Trump would have run as a Democrat had Hillary Clinton not been the de facto nominee for the party. However, Trump running as a Republican ended up giving him perfect cover for any accusations of wrongdoing, albeit one that he may not have anticipated. And that perfect cover is this. Republicans were already convinced that the mainstream media constantly lied about them. Thus, from day one, whenever a story that came out that attacked Trump in any way, no matter how factual it was, or how much it even quoted Trump's own words, all Trump had to do was brand it as fake news, and Republicans would immediately dismiss it under the assumption that the media was once again lying about a conservative. And Trump's habit of branding any story that he didn't like as fake news enabled him to remain blameless in the eyes of his supporters. After all, they reasoned, since the mainstream media lied so often about conservatives, surely they were also lying about Trump. Number 3. Trump's Christian facade. Of all the pandering that Trump has done over the past few years, his telling Christians exactly what they wanted to hear might have been the most obvious. Obvious, that is, to everyone except his Christian supporters, who swallowed everything he said hook, line, and sinker. Trump has admitted, as most of us know, that he doesn't seek God's forgiveness, nor does he even see the need to. And yet such an astoundingly anti-Christian statement didn't seem to faze his supporters one bit, who either claimed that he's a baby Christian or that it simply didn't matter because he is such a strong supporter of Christianity overall. This willingness by Christians to believe that Trump is on their side, simply because he occasionally mentioned the name of Jesus as he read it off a teleprompter, demonstrates the naivete that is rampant in modern Christianity. This naivete is best illustrated by the number of Christian preachers on YouTube who spend more time hawking their latest book or DVD or pleading for donations than they do in actually preaching the gospel. And yet they have a staggering amount of followers who seem not to care how money is so completely interwoven into every sermon. Trump's knack for telling Christians exactly what he thinks they want to hear, combined with the gullibility credibility of modern Christianity has resulted in Trump seldom being held to account among Christians, and especially those in the evangelical community. Number 4, Trump wraps himself in the flag. When looking at politicians and political campaigns, one never finds a shortage of patriotism, or at least a pretense of patriotism. In fact, one better wear a flag pin on their lapel, because if they don't, they're opening themselves up to questions about how much they really love this country. Trump has managed to take patriotism to a higher level, incessantly bragging about how much money he's poured into the U.S. military while president, and having adopted the America First approach to all foreign policy. He even famously hugged the American flag after at least one speech, in case anyone in the audience didn't understand how much he really loves the United States. Trump's over-the-top display of patriotism has often resulted in his supporters viewing him as being synonymous with America. To them, Trump is America, and America is Trump. Of course, this echoes the famous statement by Rudolf Hess at the 1934 Nuremberg Party rally, in which he said Hitler is Germany and Germany is Hitler. Sadly, too many Christians idolize America and what they believe it stands for, ignoring the fact that this is worshiping a false idol. But when they see someone like Trump wrap himself in the flag, and they have this false idol worship of America, it's not a surprise that they will forgive him for almost anything he says or does. Number 5, the ends justify the means. If there's been one constant excuse for Trump over the past few years, especially among Republican politicians, it's that supporting him was justified in long term because of the number of conservative judges and policies that have resulted. In other words, in their eyes, the ends justified the means. In fact, the ends justifying the means is completely at odds with the Bible, as it is antithetical to the idea that we are to live a Christian life at all times. Rather than telling us to ignore evil in the hope that good will come out of it, the Bible specifically warns us to not call evil good and good evil. Over the past 5 years, far too many conservatives have turned a blind eye to the type of man Trump is, and instead focused on what has been gained under his presidency. Rather than offering up even the slightest criticism of a man who appeals to our basest instincts, they found a way to excuse his every word and action, and instead denigrated those who criticized him. This is the very definition of calling evil good and good evil. Donald J. Trump is the ultimate Teflon Don, a vile force of nature that somehow escapes untouched by any accusation of wrongdoing, as his supporters find one reason after another to excuse all that he says or does. And this constant excuse-making for Trump has the net result of making him even more powerful among those who support him, as even legitimate criticism is either dismissed or simply marginalized as coming from those who are against him. This willingness to defend Trump no matter what, this loyalty to Trump above all else, this desire to denigrate anyone who criticizes him, and this cult of personality around a man who is lacking even a shred of simple human decency is the strong delusion that we were warned about in the Bible. Donald J. Trump may not be president right now, at this very moment, but the time is coming soon when he will regain all the power he so desperately craves, and his reemergence will be, in large part, because of those who find a way to excuse all that he says and does. Their unqualified support for a man who is anti-Christian in every way will be part and parcel of not only his political comeback in America, but in his rise to world power. Because whether you support him or not, make no mistake about it, Donald J. Trump is the Antichrist. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and if you care to leave a comment, please do. As always, please be respectful of one another in any comment you leave. Take care.